How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Blue Shifting. Welcome back to Chaos Head. So we've got to the point now where Taku failed to grab the sword, but we were able to see it, which was cool. And he thought he condemned his sister to death. Woke up in the hospital, and apparently she's fine. But it was kind of like, I don't know, it's not a solid case made a solid case wasn't made to say that it didn't actually kind of happen. He might have somehow twisted things with his world. I think the problem now that we've got to the point where I no longer can tell what's real. There's no really much substance to anything at this point. But now we do have the consequences of, while Nanami might still be alive, he's being eviscerated online for being a scammer because of the whole stuff that Shogun put together, which again is probably just him, but Knight, like an alternate version of his personality. It's a mess. And then they also had the finger food, which was another body that was found, which was a young woman who had choked to death on her own hand, had been forced into her own throat. So yeah, real crazy stuff. But again, it kind of seems tied to the whole Nanami situation. But then how? Because the hand's gone. So like, what was that all about? I don't know. I hope we get some actual answers eventually, because it keeps stacking up stuff and it's starting to become just unbelievable. But we had something interesting happen, which I wasn't sure what happened before, but that was the Senna was seen on camera attacking one of Nozomi's agents. And they saw the sword in the footage, which I thought was kind of odd. I didn't think they would, because I thought seeing the sword was something limited to people's who could perceive that stuff. So the fact that a camera was able to pick it up is interesting to me. I wonder if we're going to see more detail about that in the coming episodes. But for now, it looks like we're mostly dealing with the fact that Taku's become now one of the most infamous people online in his own spaces that he likes to hang out in, where he kind of escapes the real world, but the real world's now going to be harshly intruding in that world too. So yeah, if he gets doxxed especially, it's going to be messy. So I'm kind of bracing myself to see what's going to happen with that. So anyway, let's just jump right into it. Ever since the seismic intensity 5 earthquake, the city of Shibuya has been overwrought with an air of pure bloodlust. The sense of order in the city had been visibly deteriorating. The decrease in security was not just regarding fights among young people, but the increase in number of store windows being broken, as well as a large surge in theft. Yeah, they talk about too that Nozomi's tinkering, the devices they have can do that. They're stirring up people's emotions, almost rioting them up, and it's turning into actual riots and looting. The media continued to use the term new generation in order to establish a feeling of crisis and entrapment, and in response to such fear-mongering, a handful of stores had abruptly ceased operation. It's kind of interesting. I don't think it's intentional, because obviously it's pulling up, but they're kind of implying that there's going to be a point where technology might be able to interfere with emotions, and if that's happening, it could spin people up and be used as political or economic negotiating tactics. And the thing is the idea is they could use a real justifiable thing. There's times in recent history where people have a justifiable frustration with or with police or with a government, but then the response to that, it becomes this rioting that becomes so violent and so destructive of their own communities that it feels like it becomes antithesis to the movements and the injustice that they're trying to highlight by committing more injustice, which can often alienate other people from sympathizing with the movements. And I wonder if that could be something that actually happens in real life. It's tough to know, because the idea that you could somehow manipulate people en masse beyond just social media or just the news feels so sci-fi as to not be real. But if it were real, it would absolutely be kept secret, right? The other side of it being that maybe influence through the media is enough, and that also is a way of brainwashing people. I'd like to hope that people put more thought, but then again, I've seen a lot of evidence where people don't. As long as it's messaging that aligns with what they want to hear, people tend to just roll with it, unfortunately. Anyway, continuing on. In addition, a group calling themselves the anti-NewGen had suddenly transformed into a righteous mob during one of these weekly demonstrations, charging the Shibuya police station, resulting in the arrest of over 100 people. That's insane to imagine, especially in Japan. Much like the Esper Boy riot, thousands upon thousands of curious onlookers gathered in the area in order to enjoy yet another crap storm. There was a striking difference in excitement between those who were visiting the city and those who lived in it. The former expected Shibuya to be more brutally eventful than ever, while the latter condemned the lawlessness in their home and insisted on strengthening the police authority. Then, as if to mock all the uproar, the 6th NewGen incident occurred, and of course the perpetrator had yet to be apprehended. It had been a week since the earthquake, and in that period of time I'd been suspended from school. Even if I hadn't been suspended, I wouldn't have been in the proper mental state to go to school anyway. The day immediately following the earthquake, another NewGen incident had occurred. That incident, just like the murder of Dr. Takashina, was obviously supposed to send a message to me. It was a woman who'd bitten off her own right hand. There was no doubt in my mind it was supposed to allude to Nanami's severed right hand. Nanami was clear bait for Shogun to lure me out, but even though I knew that, I thought that Nanami couldn't have been the one killer that could have been the one the killer sent shivers down my spine. As since I had become a famous in Shibuya, the worst sense of the word, I was now more terrified of going out than ever. Yeah, that's not going to be good for his mental health. If I had a hole to crawl into, I would have done it with no hesitation. Even going to the convention store to buy food for myself killed me, and there had been entire days where I went without eating. It was impossible for me to walk outside with my head not glued to the ground. It was always felt like someone was laughing at me. The gazes of other people terrified me. I didn't want to talk to anyone, to see anyone. People from the mass media had been trying to bother me constantly, but I ignored every single one of them. I hadn't called my parents, nor had I talked to Nanami. I hadn't been playing ESO either, and if it somehow got out that I was near at heart, I would be absolutely screwed. It had been 1 week now. Was that enough time for everything to cool down? People always said, oh, they'll forget about it in a month, but hopefully that didn't actually take that long. And I mean, trends did go by extremely quickly these days. Slang people used would become obsolete by the next year. Even that slang and memes that people used online died out in just a couple months. That's very true. Television sought out heroes, idols, villains, or whatever else would excite the public, and as soon as it found them, it consumed them for all they were worth and promptly discarded them. Even the NewGen cases, which had been going on for 6 cases now, were quieting down. No one even talked about the first case on that channel anymore. Everything faded from people's memories in the blink of an eye. Which was why I was hoping that in the past week, everything that happened to me had already faded from the public consciousness, just like some passing trend. Even if it was just wishful thinking, I couldn't help but hope that it might be true. My head and stomach started to pang. I sat down on my usual bench and calmed myself down. Saratan would know what to say right now.
そんなに苦しむぐらいならもう学校になんか行くのやめればいいっしょ
I don't like your point of view. You're not helpful. I was at that point where I was starting to consider it. I mean, due to the worsening security, more and more people had been opting out of school in Shibuya Ward. It wasn't just me. I'd always thought that it made no difference whether or not I graduated, so much so that I'd be willing to drop out of school right now. But despite that, I still planned to continue going, even if I meant risking running into Yua. I gulped down a cola I'd bought at the vending machine on the way to the park, then stood up from the bench. I should just stop kidding myself. I didn't want to go to school, but I didn't want to quit it either. Because if I quit school... I wouldn't be able to see Rimi anymore. We were classmates, so as long as I kept going to school, I'd be able to see her without going out of my way to do so, but if I lost that... Dang, dude. I could always just call her or go meet her directly, but like I said, that would mean I'd have to go out of my way to contact her. And I knew for a fact I couldn't do that. In fact, I already hadn't been able to bring myself to see her for a while now. That was what Rimi had promised me, and I hadn't heard from her for over 10 days now. Not a single word. The thought that Rimi, my one and only ally, might have fallen out of love with me after seeing my disgusting behavior on TV, it destroyed me. I like how he's convinced that she just loves him. It might be true, but he's like banking on it. I was terrified, felt like crying. I'd never felt so alone. No one, not even Nanami, had come to see me. I was being subjected to thread after thread of endless slander on the internet. I was scared crapless by even the idea of Shogun and Rimi. And while I'd said before I didn't want to see anyone, the loneliness was eating away at me. I wanted Rimi to come and see me. I wanted her to hug me gently and tell me it would all be okay. It must have been so hard, but I'm here now, she would say. In the end, Rimi had spoiled me rotten. But she wasn't in the wrong for doing so. Rimi had taught me the warmth that 3D could have. And now that I knew what that warmth felt like, I'd never stopped wishing for it ever since. I couldn't get that kind of peace from 2D delusions anymore. I couldn't survive on just my delusions. I wanted to see her. Dang, dude. I mean, it's kind of good, but I'm still nervous. When I'd passed through the school gate, I hadn't noticed any particular change in the atmosphere. That is to say, no one had noticed me. I entered the building, started up the stairs. A girl I didn't recognize went to pass me, but just before I did, she let out an audible and looked at me with pity in her eyes. I walked into the hallway where my classroom was located. Several windows were broken, and I could feel people's gazes mercilessly burning through me as they whispered. At that moment, I was hit with a very bad feeling. My wishful thinking was already on the verge of shattering to pieces. But even so, I opened the door to my classroom, fueled by my one desire to see Rimi. Is it Rimi or Rimi? Because in Japanese, wouldn't that be Rimi? But I feel like they said Rimi every time they talked about her. The silence lasted for about 10 seconds. Everyone was frozen. They all stared at me. I kept my head down as I walked through the quiet classroom and took my seat. As if on cue, DQN sitting in the last row, whose name I didn't know, spoke up.
Oi, Nishijo! 超能力見せてくんね?
Oh, yeah, we should just go. I would immediately be like, I'm going home. And with those two sentences, time started moving again in the classroom.
それ言ったらかわいそうじゃね? だってユーリが認めた男なんだぜ。そうそう、俺テレビ見てたぜ。すげえよ、あのやらせ超能力者。
西条もどうせやらせなんでしょ？
大きい人形と小さいお人形を抱えてただけだもんね。
Jeez, holy crap.
やめとけって。西条は病気なだけだっつの。そっとしといてやれ。
Holy fetch, man. That's just freaking brutal.
だってあいつ空飛べるらしいじゃん。あとなんだっけ？投資？
私投資されたらどうしよう。服もスケスケで裸見られる。
西条変態じゃん。
お、やっべ、こっち見た。石にされる前に目をそらせ。大丈夫。実際のところただのキモートだから。
Oh gosh. This is hell. Yeah, I agree. For once. It's unfortunate, but it's like, it really sucks too, because it's like, it's reinforcing all the degrading things he thought about himself this entire time. You imagine that? Like, he constantly was putting himself down, calling himself an otaku freak, saying that he didn't deserve these things, didn't deserve happiness or being with friends or whatever, right? And now, they're all confirming it in his mind. This was exactly what I'd feared the most. The DQNs had their eyes on me now. It had been a week, but no one had forgotten about the uproar I'd caused. I was now the laughingstock of Japan. The boy who, after trying to show off his special powers to the masses, went home and slept with a figure. There was no point in protesting, saying that I'd never call myself an esper. The truth was meaningless now. Right now, the truth was only the story that everyone in Japan was familiar with, the story with tens of millions of people recognized to be the truth. There was no fixing that. No one could. Not me, not anyone on TV, not even Shogun. I was self-proclaimed esper, who no one would ever associate with. I was an absolutely revolting male otaku, the biggest freak anyone had ever seen. Not a single person would ever look at me with anything other than disgust. I'd always hated TV shows that made fun of otakus, and now I just added fuel to the fire. I didn't have any psychic abilities. I couldn't fly, didn't have any clairvoyance, didn't have telekinesis. I couldn't obtain a D-sword. I'd even given up on trying to save my sister just so I could save myself, like the complete piece of crap I was. I was just an otaku that had nothing to show for his life other than his knowledge of anime, video games, and whatever other media, so it only made sense that I couldn't do it. I fought off my imminent mental breakdown and searched for my savior, Rimi. And when I did, my eyes met Misumi-kun's, only for him. Yeah, he's not gonna deal with us anymore. He'd immediately look away. I guess that was only fair. If you hung out with me, the entire class would shun you too. That's why he'd looked away. It was only natural. Besides, he and I had always lived in two different worlds. I was an otaku, he was a total alpha male. It was a marvel that we'd been friends at all. Feeling like I was on the verge of tears, I went back to scanning the room. I searched for anything I could latch onto, desperately cried out in my mind for Rimi. But she wasn't there. Rimi was nowhere to be found. Why? Why was she just absent? Of all times for her to be gone, why now? I didn't have any way to get a hold of her. What if she never came to school again? If that happened, I'd never see her again for the rest of my life. That was the feeling I got. It was like that when she first appeared too. Back then, on the first day I saw her at school, Rimi was suddenly in my class just like that. And now she disappeared just as quickly. Could she have gotten caught up in the earthquake? Could she be dead? I tried my best to shake off all these negative thoughts, but it was hopeless. I was just getting more and more depressed, and now my mind was being overwhelmed by an incredibly dark and foreboding delusion. Oh, it's a fun episode. Whew. I was starting to wonder if the girl I knew, a girl known as Sakihata Rimi, had ever existed at all. Maybe she was just another personality I created inside my delusion, like Sierra-tan? When I thought of it like that, it all started to make sense. Whenever I needed help, Rimi always came to my rescue, like a knight in shining armor. Whenever everyone else would treat like a otaku freak like me trash, Rimi would treat me with kindness. She also looks a lot like Sierra-tan, so like, that would make sense. Had I seriously believed that there was a 3D girl that was just so darn perfect for me? Someone that was pretty much my dream girl? Dang. I had no reason to come to school anymore. My one and only reason was gone. I want to have a happy thought, man. He needs something to think about that's good. Yeah, we're going to do that. I really was completely alone, just like I'd always been. I'd always been completely and utterly alone. I started to cry inside my head. It took everything I had just to keep myself from crying in real life. That was all I could do to try and at least maintain some semblance of pride, but that was all it was, a semblance. At the same time, it makes sense he'd have a bad delusion here. I don't know what I should do. Green to escape, red to like make it worse than it actually is. Let's do a red one. I haven't done one in a while. I tried as hard as I could to just keep my head down, grit my teeth, and stay in my seat. Even though I didn't want to hear them, I could hear all my classmates talking. I wanted to run away, but I was too afraid that I would only make things worse. Every last one of you should just die. Oh, wait a minute. Whoa, no, 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 no. No, no, no. No, no, no. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't do that. That'd be bad. Okay, we're doing good. We're doing good. We're doing good. No. I feel like we did red and we have that thought. That's gonna be bad. I had nothing left to lose, so why not just die doing what I love to the very end? For example, wrapping my arms around one of the girls in my class and whispering dirty things ripped straight from an eroge in their ear. If I could actually do that, I'd go straight to class in the morning and get some public humiliation roleplay. Foo-hee-hee. While only half paying attention, I looked around the classroom. Who would be a good target? A cute girl that wouldn't put up much of a fight sounded ideal. Go! I regret everything I've just done! Oh no! The DQNBs are already out of the question, even though they were all mere high school students. They all wore so much makeup, rendering them not even remotely attractive. Oh, I know. Maybe the transfer student would be a good choice. From a glance, she looked to be quite docile. Her entire body gave off the aura of a lolly who was typically the #1 target of bullying. Additionally, she also had the clumsy girl attribute, which was super moe. Really, she was already virtually a 2D character. Yeah, perhaps she would really be a good choice. Hee. No. No. Please don't. I regret everything. I stood up in a relaxed manner. The aura surrounding me had changed. Even the people who had been ridiculing me, provoking me, were startled by my sudden movement. In the end, you guys are all talk. But I'm different. I'm the type of man who acts, and now it's time to prove it to you. I shouldn't have done this. I am living in so much regret. Without saying a single word, I made my way over to the transfer student's desk. She was sitting hunched over in her seat, face down. Noticing me approach, she looked up at me quizzically. For some reason, she already looked like she was about to cry. Then I quickly grabbed both her slender arms. Then I began to pull her toward me. She tried to resist me with her feeble strength. She alternated between looking at me and looking at her surroundings, her confusion written all over her face. It was clear she had no idea what to do. Oh, no! Oh! I live in such regret. I live in so much regret right now. I don't even want to look. Why? I brought her close and wrapped my arms around her quite forcefully. No! Oh, I shouldn't have done this. Can I redo? I can't. I want to, though. Her body was really incredibly frail to the point where I thought I might break her if I was too rough with her. She trembled like a chihuahua in my arms. But man, did she smell good. I nuzzled against her head, the top of which barely reached the bottom of my chin. I buried my nose in her soft hair and sniffed it. Oh. The transfer student was so terrified she couldn't speak. Then again, I hadn't seen her talk to anyone before this, anyway. She was struggling, wriggling around in order to try and escape from my grip, but the strength she put up forth was pitiful. I didn't exercise normally at all, but even with zero muscle mass, I'd easily be able to subdue her. The DQNs around me, likely taken aback by my strange behavior, were all frozen in place. As the transfer student shook her head back and forth, I ran my tongue along her earlobe. Her delicate body squirmed in my arms. Oh, what a delicious reaction. More. I couldn't get enough of it. I was getting more and more aroused. I decided not to think about the consequences, instead just choosing to follow through with my inner desires. First, the dirty talk. I was going to make this timid transfer student say something indecent. Wee, sexual desires or something else. The transfer student's face reddened. She shook her head even more desperately than before, tears welling up in her eyes. Why? Why? Her reluctance only served to feed my sadistic desire even more. I want to burn this planet to the ground. Humanity was a mistake. We really... This exists, and that makes me sad. Say cock-a-doodle-doo. Alright, we have a thumbnail. We have a thumbnail. Huh? Well, let's forget about that last one. As I slouched further and further into my seat, I tried to make the transfer student perform a number of humiliating acts in my head. I wasn't going to hold back anymore. My life was going to end anyway. Might as well have a little bit of fun before I did. The more I thought about it, the more I felt like the urge to do it. Maybe the moment I did something reckless like that, the simulation of the bad end would end and the world would reset. I would then return to the original world where I could make different choices. Rimi would be there. Masumi-kun would be talking to me in his normal, overly friendly manner. Everyone had completely forgotten about my shameful behavior. No one would be making fun of me. Maybe I should try it. The center of my head felt fuzzy. It kind of felt feverish. Is he actually going to do something here? I wonder. I don't see the sword. Or was it a fever you got before obtaining some new knowledge or power? Or was it a delusional fever? Didn't have a specific name for it if it was. Well, not like it mattered. Maybe I should try it. Even if I couldn't return to the original world, people would just think I was crazy. No, they probably already thought that, so it didn't really matter. It wasn't like I had anything to lose. A week ago, back when the nurse had told me that Nanami was still alive, I thought that. As long as Nanami was alive, nothing else mattered. Even my life didn't matter. I didn't care if I was treated like some freak and sent to the nearest hospital. It'd be nice if I ended up in the same one as ISA, where ISA had been admitted to, I wonder. Was it that penitentiary-like hospital that she'd used to be in? Even that would be fine. Hell, it'd even be slight better than being in this school without Rimi. The urges within me bubbled like magma. I could no longer control them. What is gonna happen? I slowly stood up. Oh, he's actually doing it? Oh no. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Everyone in the class stared at me and their expressions stiffened. Don't look. There was no reason to look at the worthless pieces of crap like me. Suddenly, I heard a girl's voice. Not only that, but it sounded straight out of an anime.
この前飛び降り自殺をしようとした人を助けたのは西条くんだもん。だから西条くんにはたくさん価値はあるよ。
Who the hell was talking to me? I looked around the room one more time. Everyone was all frozen in place due to my odd behavior, but they all kept their mouths shut. I couldn't find a single human being who was talking. But that voice, it was such a strange sensation. It felt like it was coming from directly inside my head. It's Saratan, but hasn't that happened this whole time? Was it an illusion, or had I just crafted yet another delusional girl inside my head?
幻聴なんかじゃないのら。妄想でもない。
Huh? Was that just now? They were responding to my thoughts? Was someone reading my mind? No, it had to be just a delusion.
コズピーはここにいるよ。
Kozupi? Who's that?
コズピってなんだよ。ここってどこ？誰なの？
When I shouted, my classmates moved further away from me, almost like they were trying to run away in fear.
西条くんに価値がないなんて、そんなの全然違う。
What the fetch? The voice didn't answer my question. All the voice did was continue to talk to me like a real strange way.
むしろ
Kinda sounds like a kid.
西条くんのことをひどく言うクラスのみんなの方が価値がないから。
Huh. A shudder ran through me. Goosebumps sprang up on my skin. In an extremely cheerful tone, the voice then said,
いいと思うなら殺しても
Oh no. Kozupi, I don't like you. Please, no more. I cowered in my seat, cradling my head in my hands. The world hadn't reset. I hadn't returned to the parallel world where Rimi was. I mean, yeah. A different world that exists parallel to ours in another space-time. It exists in the same dimension as the world we live in, and in some cases, the locations of people and other objects residing in it are completely identical. Rather, it was like they'd gone completely and utterly crazy. Oh, bro, you're in trouble. It had been a week since Ben had last visited the Frisia office, and things were a little bit different than he remembered. The seeds of papers that had been piled high atop each and every desk were now completely absent. They had likely all come crashing down due to the earthquake, and Momose had ordered it to be cleaned up. Because of this, the place looked quite tidy. Staring at it with a sidelong look, Ben let out a sigh and sat down in the office chair he'd wheeled out from behind a desk. He restlessly fanned his face with his favorite handheld fan. Momose, who had been tapping away her laptop's keyboard for their desk, took one look at Ben's dismal appearance and scowled.
なーに？来るなにため息なんてついて。
なあ、ももちゃん。何にもないとこから剣が出てくるって手品見たことあるかい？
Oh, yeah.
そう。手品なんて詳しくないから。
じゃあ、瞬間移動は？
箱の中に入ってとかそういうこと？
いや、そうじゃなくて。
He's like going crazy. He's like, have you ever heard of this happening? Because, I'm at a loss.
一体何が言いたいわけ？宴会芸でも覚えたいの？
わかんねえならいいんだ。多分関係ないことだからさ。
変な人ね。
Momose shrugged her shoulders and took a bite out of the kinsuba pastry Ben had offered her.
どうぞお茶っす。
Hey, there he is. Suwa brought over 2 paper cups, steam billowing out of the green tea that had been poured into them.
あら悪いわね、スバちゃん。お茶組なんてさせちゃって。今日美穂ちゃん風邪で休んでて。
いや、大丈夫っす。
With a cheerful smile on his face, he handed Momose and Ben each a paper cup. Suwa had been taken into the office once before by Ban while they were on another case. Ever since then, Suwa had come to look up to Momose and her as his mentor rather than more of a direct superior Ban. Momose also seemed to enjoy Suwa's company, and she trended to speak to the young, honest man with a far kinder language than she did Ban.
それより何の話してたんすか？
どうやったら父兄に受ける宴会芸を覚えられるかって相談をな。
は
あ、そりゃ興味深いっす。
スワちゃん、こんなダメ刑事なんかといつまでもつるんでちゃダメよ。もっと優秀な上司につくのおすすめするわ。でないとあなたの出世街道が断たれちゃう。
まるで俺が出世絶望的みてえな言い方だな。
事実でしょ。悔しかった
So
らもっと真面
absolutely
目に
you're
仕
gonna
事し
ruin
な
his
さい。
career.
してるんだがな。ああ。
I could have sworn I heard a voice just now in the background. Like, the background noise is really odd, but I thought I heard him muttering. I think I'm going crazy now? Cool. That's just great. I just love the fact that I don't even know if I'm crazy. Ignoring Ban's frown of disagreement, Momose held out a box of Kintsuba to Suwa.
スワちゃんも食べて。
あ、どうもっす。
言っとくが、それは俺が自腹で買ってきたもんだぞ。
先輩、いただきます。
When he saw the subordinate bow his head and reach for this Kintsuba, Ban let out yet another sigh.
それより二人ともこれを見て。
Oh, what did you find? Whoa, look at that. A line graph appeared on the laptop screen, a greatly undulating curve that rose and fell like a tide. Suwa, who had circled around behind Ban, peered at the graph and cocked his head.
これ、何のグラフっすか？
ここ1年の渋谷近辺の GE レートよ。おかしいと思わない？
渋谷の平均 GE レートが世界的に見ても高いってのは、ももちゃんに教えてもらったんだぜ。
Right.
そうじゃなくて、気のせいかもしれないけど、GE レートが何者かによって操作されてるような気がするの。
Oh, interesting. Yeah. That's probably Nozomi, but I wonder if when the delusions are pulled through, that also affects the GE rate.
そんなことできるんすか？
さあ。でもグラフを見ると、なんだか不自然なのよね。数値が小刻みに変動しすぎてる。
Yeah.
10年ぐらい前まで遡って調べてみたんだけど、ここ5年くらいはずっとそんな調子なのよ。
前に太田教授だっけか？その人が言ってたなんだっけ、 G レートが半年前から増加してるとかなんとか、その辺と関係あんのかい？
太田教授の調査では G レートはそんなに細かい変動は起こさないっていうことなのよ。
何らかの異常が起こってて、そこに人為的なものを感じるってことか。
でも5年っすよ。それだけ続いてれば異常じゃなくて正常な状態と言えなくもないんじゃないですか
？Except for that's like trying to say that that's actually, ironically, that's a very similar argument about climate change. There's a lot of the more skeptical side of it. People will just try to say like, oh, well, it's not because of humans doing anything. It's just the way the planet works. And the planet does heat and cool naturally. And it does have a trend of like the temperature fluctuating and coinciding with an increase and decrease in CO2 levels. But the problem is, so if the chart was going like this, up, down, throughout the past like millions of years, we get to the modern day and the CO2 goes from this to this. Like temperatures going up and down here, but the CO2 is spiking. And because the two, for like pretty much all history, correlated with each other, they're worried that the temperature, which has been going up, will keep going up well past the normal threshold that the Earth has been experiencing. And that's the fear. And the thing is, what's the only thing that's changed across these multi-million years of studies using like Arctic ice and like looking at stone, like layering and like working our way back through history? Humans. So it's like, there's some pretty clear evidence, kind of like this is going on, that like, what's the difference here? Well, we also have a bit of information where about 5 years ago is when the patent was released for the technology about being able to manipulate people's like ability, perceptions and such remotely. And if it taps into or is utilizing this wittingly or unwittingly, it makes sense that man-made would be using it, even if, the past 5 years, of course, it's been going up. But you have to decide on the scale of like geological phenomena that 5 years is a meaningful time scale.
もう一つあるの。グラフを細かく調べていくと G レートは毎週末に伸びる傾向にあるのよ。
Oh, interesting.
週休2日のサラリーマンにはありがたいこったな。俺には関係ねえけど。
ああ、土日に休み欲しいっすね。自分もう2ヶ月休みなしっすよ。
The two dejected detectives hung their heads, to which Momose responded with a curt shake of her own.
茶化してる場合じゃないわ。1週間ごとに定期的に変動してるのよ。しかも年末年始やお盆休みなんかは変動がピタリと止まる。
Huh.
何かの意志が働いているとしか思えないわ。
Yeah, because on holidays when people would get off work, or when they're like the weekends come, the fluctuations stop because nobody's messing with them. Oh, that's actually kind of scary.
年末年始やお盆休みがあるのって人間だけだよな。動物や植物はそんなもんあるわけねえもんな。
Nope.
実は地球の意志とか。
地球の意志
Yeah, will of the earth? What does that even
随
mean?
分壮大な話だな。
And plus, why would the earth follow cycles of human activity?
だが、もし仮にそんなもんがあったとして、地球が明けましておめでとうとか言うかや。
冗談っすよ。
Oh.
年末年始はともかくお盆休みは日本にしかない風習よね。
日本人の社会活動と同期しすぎてる。
That's an interesting deduction.
渋谷っすから当然なんじゃ。
ちなみにこことここ見て。
Almost I first pointed out the center of the line graph, and then at the right when the most recent data was situated.
この2箇所はすごく伸びているでしょ。
一番右はこの1年の最高記録みたいだな。
Yeah.
1年どころかこの10年で最高よ。
日付は
真ん中は3ヶ月前。
Oh, I clicked, sorry.
覚えてる？小さな地震があったでしょ。
Oh, yeah.
震度3でなぜか8人も死んだ。あれか。あの犠牲者ってなんで死んだのか理由はまだ特定できてないんじゃなかったか？
さあ、そうでしたっけ？
Ignoring the exchange between the two detectives, Momose continued talking.
で、一番右はこの間の地震の日。
And it was the record.
おお。
あの日、大規模な電磁波が発生したのは知ってるわよね。
Yeah. No, this is it might like you gotta be cautious of correlation without causation. But if you have correlation, you should investigate. You shouldn't assume that they're tied together. But there's a lot of correlation happening in 3 different levels that starts not looking like a coincidence. And then you also have like the whole like the fact that the fluctuations, the micro fluctuations, are mimicking patterns of human like activity. You combine that with everything else, it really is starting to point the finger to some intelligent, like active human intervention happening and triggering these events.
渋谷中のコンピューターが壊れたらしいな。俺はアナログ人間だからよくわからんが。
自分も自宅のノーパソがやられたっす。復旧してる暇がなくて。
あれは地震の影響で電磁波が起きたって言われてるけど、真相は全く逆かもしれない。
The electromagnetic waves might have caused the earthquake.
電磁波の影響で地震が起きた。
Interesting.
おいおい、そんなことテレビや新聞じゃ言ってなかったぞ。
They wouldn't.
あくまで私の推測だけど、この2つの地震は天災じゃなくて人災かもって思ってるの。
That's terrifying.
だってどっちも普通じゃないもの。前の地震では震度3っていう規模なのに8人も亡くなってるし。
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Like, I've experienced a seismic 4 earthquake, and it was kind of scary, but it didn't even knock paintings off the wall. It was weird, but it didn't even form cracks in the asphalt. Like, it was kind of just like an oddity. But like I said, the best way I could describe like a 4.0 earthquake, it was as if, like if you've ever been by train tracks, it was almost as if you were like, I was in our apartment, but it was like a train or a subway was going right underneath the house. It was like, it was loud and it shook, but it didn't feel dangerous. It just felt like alarming because it was unexpected.
そして今回は震度5で118人。
Yeah.
死にすぎって言いたいのか。
さっきバンちゃん言ったでしょ。亡くなった方の大半は死因が不明って。そんなの尋常じゃないわ。
まあ、確かに。
You know, it's also kind of interesting to think about too. Electromagnetic waves, and it's affecting computers on the the micro level. Our brains are essentially biological computers. So I wonder if it's ever been considered. I mean, we operate on such a minuscule amount of electricity. Basically, like I think it's less than a light bulb. But would it ever be possible to make an EMP pulse that could actually affect and fry like the nervous system? I wonder if we've ever considered that as a technology. Like, that's terrifying. I hope never does. Like, it would be the new atomic bomb, because even scarier than an atomic bomb would be a bomb that could go off that could like EMP wipe like all human minds and maybe other animal minds, but leave all the infrastructure and resources intact. It would be like a purge bomb. If you could actually detonate a device like that, imagine you could conquer an entire nation and just leave it empty and barren, ready to get cleaned up and ready to use. It would be almost scarier because it would be so, has such minimal impact on the rest of the world. Because it feels like people would find it a lot easier to justify, right? Instead of sending people to war, why not just erase an entire nation? Like, that's terrifying. I'm kind of scared to like even ask that question, because like part of me wonders, like, if on fundamental basics level our human brain is essentially a biological computer, could it be susceptible to similar types of attacks that a computer could? Now, I wouldn't say like a virus, like a computer virus, because a computer virus has to work on the fundamental like computing like information. Like, you'd have to be able to literally hack a brain, and to do that without physical intervention at this point is considered impossible. Though again, that's what this stuff's talking about. This technology could do that. Then besides stepping that, like take it to another level. What if, like a computer, you could have an EMP blast that would be at a range that would affect and overcharge or negate all the charging in the brain, essentially shutting the brain off like instantly. Most likely you can't reset a brain like you can reset a computer. In fact, remember, the Takumi's computer, he did reset it, but it lost all of its memory. You'd be at the minimum, if this technology were real, resetting everyone's brains. Essentially, you're wiping away their personality and their memories and leaving them all blank slates, tabula rasa. But in on the darker side of this type of technology, if it were to exist, you would be essentially cooking their brains, microwaving them from the inside. Because that's what an EMP blast will do with a lot of like delicate electronics, is it overcharges them, fills them full of electrons so currents can't flow anymore, and to discharge it, the level of like buildup like energy is so high that it fries anything that's like sensitive, like small components, the stuff that works off of very minimal power, like cell phones, computers, and all that. Cars might be okay if they're not too modern, but yeah, no, there's imagine a brain going through that. It would just be dead. That's so insane.
それに空が白く染まったっていう噂もある。
そういえば時間が経つにつれて全く報道されなくなったな。
マスコミに何らかの圧力があったのかもね。
まさか。
No. I feel like that does happen.
明和党か。
おそらくそうよ。
マジっすか？
He's like accusing a political
明和
movement.
党とつながりのある企業、団体を洗うべきかもな。
もうやったわよ。
Oh, baby.
さすがももちゃん。相変わらず仕事早いね。
Momo-chan is like an investigator and has another full-time job. That's insane.
で、
Momose raised her hand skyward and stretched far and wide, tilting her head slightly to the side. A satisfying pop sounded from her bones. Oh, that actually sounds nice. I need to go pop my back after this.
それらしい当たりはなし。 お手上げよ。
Oh, dang, really?
お手上げって。ももちゃん。
やっぱももちゃんさんの推測が間違いなんじゃ。
そうかもしれないわね。これでも結構時間かけて調べたのよ。本業そっちのけでね。
Oh, wow.
でも行き詰まっちゃったわ。よほど巧妙に隠されているか。スワちゃんの言う通り、私の推測が見当外れでしかないのか。
こういう時は別の方向から攻めてみるってのがデカの鉄則だぜ。
Yeah, that's true. Come at a different approach. Like, keep all that in mind, but try and work your way from a different part of the information you think you've got, or the hunches you have, the ideas you have, the trails you have. Work a different problem.
先輩、なんか心当たりあるんすか？
Van stopped the hand that was fanning himself, then wet his lips with his tongue.
週末に G レートが上がって得するやつって誰なんだろうな。
The entertainment industry, maybe? Interesting. I hadn't heard any more auditory illusions, but I couldn't bear to spend even another second in the classroom, so I booked it to the restroom and hid there until class was over. The reason I hadn't immediately headed back to my base was not only because of my lingering regret, but also because I still hoped I'd get to see Rimi. So after school, once everybody had left, I snuck back into the empty classroom. And there she was, all alone in the room, smiling at me as I walked in, was Rimi.
石どこ行ってたの？待ってたのよ。一緒に帰ろっか、タク。
I was hoping you'd say that. This is exactly what I'd wished for. But I was the only one in the classroom. Nobody was waiting for me. I made my way to the courtyard. It was here that Rimi had told me I'll stay by your side. But now there was no one here. My only companions were the purple flowers in the flower bed swaying lonesome in the autumn breeze. I grabbed the vermilion handkerchief out of my bag, the same one that Rimi had given me. I sniffed it, hoping to smell her familiar floral scent, but that smell never came. I'd likely washed it once before, and in the process erased every trace of her. It was just a regular handkerchief now. The memory lingered, but Rimi did not. Within every part of me crying out to see her.
なんて
I simply wandered around the school grounds.
なんて救いようがないんだ。僕って。
Holding her handkerchief to my mouth the entire time. Creepy. I disgusted myself so much I felt like I was going to vomit. After leaving the school, I began to walk around aimlessly. I didn't care about anything anymore. My fears about being attacked by Shogun or Yua or whoever else had completely vanished. I even found myself wishing that they would kill me. As long as it wasn't painful, I'd welcome it. Dang, my mental state had been completely overtaken by depression. Where my gaze happened upon it, the center of Shibuya was so bleak it only served to accelerate my depression all the more. Not a single smile could be seen on the people walking down the street. All they did was scowl grimly at their surroundings. It gave the place a particularly stark atmosphere, one that felt as if a fight could break out between the passers-by at any moment. Stores that would normally be filled to the brim with people had their shutters. Stores that had been filled to the brim with people and had their shutters practically bolted to the ground. Just by walking aimlessly through Shibuya, I'd already come across a ton of them. I also noticed that there were less cars on the road than usual. The jumbotrons that all had blared through the streets were now completely silent. And in their place were the incessant sounds of police sirens, car horns, and various cars screeching in the distance. There wasn't a single trace of the mess I'd caused in front of the station a week ago. Even if I hadn't disappeared from people's memories, yet the city's memories may have long since driven me into obscurity. How nice it would be if I too could wipe away my memories. To know nothing, be ignorant, or made a fool. I was sure a person like that lived a full life of sunshine and roses. Sure. I don't think so.
無知は罪だ。知らない方が幸せなこともあるという人間もいるが、そんなのはただの甘えだ。
See? Listen to Senna. She knows what she's talking about. I had a feeling Senna had said that to me, but was it really so wrong being naive? People, me, none of us are that strong. I was always wishing for someone to save me. I couldn't do anything on my own. I didn't want to. I stood there in the middle of the road and closed my eyes. The most agonizing thing about all of this was that I barely understood what was actually going on. Exactly how I feel, brother. Things like Shogun, the D swords, were things I didn't want to know, but I'd ended up learning about them regardless. However, if you were to ask me what they were, I wouldn't be able to answer. I didn't know the answer. Maybe I should just die. Looking at the top of the O-front building, I thought that to myself. If I were to die, maybe my memories would reset and I'd get to play again. Hey, person controlling me, what do you think? No. Even if it were to be the case, it wouldn't be you. That's the idea. It's like, it would be another you. It wouldn't be you. You wouldn't just be able to jump right back into your own life. This current playthrough is a complete and utter failure. You made a mistake by allowing your joke of a character to grow in levels. You should have made me more like a hero. You should have made me actually cool. You should have made me more social, more respectful to women. You should have given me a passionate sense of justice that would allow me to empower the weak. As I am now, I can't beat the final boss and I can't beat the game. I can't do anything, so please don't expect me to. Restart the game. Please, I'm worthless like this. Erase me. God, I'm having Doki Doki vibes going. Wouldn't it be like wouldn't it be crazy if it was like credits rolled and it was done? I wasn't erased. Instead, I felt the impact of someone bumping into my shoulder. I thought it was just an auditory illusion. Earlier this morning, I'd heard a girl version of that line, and now it was a guy version. Who asked for that? I'd rather hear a much more Moe voice, an illusion I could actually fap to later. Gosh darn it, dude. Every time I start to think like I can get you, you just say that kind of crap. Then again, if they were to whisper something sexy in my ear, I'd get a boner even though I was in the middle of the city. Fwee.
無視してんじゃねえぞ。なあてめえ、西条だな。
Oh no.
どうなんだ、やらせ超能力少年。この前テレビ出てたよな。ギャラいっぱいもらったんだろ。ちょっと顔貸せよ、エスパー君。
Oh no. I opened my eyes. There were 3 men standing all around me. All 3 of them were wearing baggy clothes, and they had gold, silver, and red hair. 2 of them had their noses and ears pierced, and the remaining one just had their ears pierced. One of them was a Ganguro, who I thought had gone completely extinct before now. Ah, there's a death flag, I thought to myself. This was the bump into confrontation kind of death flag, huh? It really was just one after the other today. Whatever, don't even care anymore. Just hurry up and kill me. Once you do, the game will reset and I'll be born anew. Do you have a knife on you? Make sure you stab me in a way that I'll die instantly, alright? I was so scared my legs were shaking. I shouted that instinctively, though I'd been closer to a scream. I didn't care about how it made me look. I don't want to die, I don't want to die, I don't want to die. I wasn't lying about not caring. I was lying about not caring anymore. My situation might be hopeless, but I still don't want to die. One of the DQNs covered my mouth. I couldn't speak anymore. They grabbed my arms from both sides. I stopped resisting. They dragged me to a deserted alleyway that no one could go anywhere near, grinning the entire time, so I decided to launch my preemptive strike against the 3 men. I got down on my hands and knees and apologized in a shaky voice. I held out my wallet to them. The DQN snatched it from me.
お前金持ちだな。さすが超能力少年だぜ。お前いいやつじゃん。俺気に入っちゃったよ。
Oh no. Still on my hands and knees, I breathed out a sigh of relief when he said that. If he liked me, he was probably gonna let me go.
俺らの仲間に入れてやるよ。入会金は100万円な。これ強制。本当はすぐ払ってもらうとこだけどよ。今日の夜までにしてやるよ。まあ、なんか超能力使って見せてくれたら、半額にしてやってもいいけどな。なんか言えよ。超能力見せろっつってんだよ。
I was just reading this, it says God's judgment and graffiti here.
できねえの。できねえのかっつってんだよ。
Felt a sharp pain jolt through my side. Felt like he'd broken my ribs. I couldn't breathe. I nearly lost consciousness. I was dizzy. Right as I thought that, the DQN's foot came into view in front of me, then aimed directly at my face. His shoe shot toward me at tremendous speed. Ouch. What just happened? I thought I felt an agonizing pain radiating from my face, but it might have just been a delusion. I tried to open my eyes, but the eyelids refused to move. The darkness wouldn't go away.
だよ、もう伸びたのか？
どうする？このくらいにしとく？もうちょっと痛みつけといた方がいいんじゃね？あのダーススパイダーの兄ちゃんもそう言ってたじゃん。
Oh, what? Oh, no.
ボコボコにしてくれって言ってた。
こいつボコるだけで金くれるなんて、よっぽどこいつのこと嫌いなのかもな。
God, their laughs are crazy.
というわけなんで、続きまーす。
俺らのこと恨まないでね。
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I want to kill them. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I want to kill them. What's happening to them?
おい、何土地狂ってんだよ。ふざけんなよ。なんだそれ。おい、よせ。やめろ。やめて。やだ。
Oh my gosh, what's happening? What's happening? What was, who's there? He's gonna end that? Oh my gosh. The pale evening sun shone through the window of the hospital room. The light, shining red by the twilight, divided the room in two distinct parts, one captivated by light and one dominated by darkness. And what was illuminated by that light was a bed adorned with pure white sheets. On the bedside table, a handheld video camera console. A number of academic books lined the nearby shelf, neighboring the muted pink petals of the arrangement of cosmo flowers resting in a vase. The room was neat and tidy. Nothing moved, nothing stirred. It was a space where some time seemed to have come to a stop. The window cut into the evening sky, and by that window was a small figure sitting in a wheelchair. The figure's back was to the window. He remained still and motionless. His breathing was so light that the intervals between each breath were so long one might think he was already dead. His skin was covered in wrinkles. His cheeks were hollow. His eye sockets were sunken in. His scalp was barren. With these features, it was often questioned whether he should be referred as a young boy or an old man. His shadow, which he had dubbed Shogun, extended all the way to the door of the room. The world moved for the first time. The door swung open and a figure emerged from the darkened corridor, stepping foot inside the room steeped in evening glow. I knew it was going to be Rimi. Sakihata Rimi did not fully enter the hospital room, instead choosing to remain at the entrance. Her expression, illuminated by the setting sun, detailed how the girl had been deep in thought.
もうやめよう。
Oh, so she is working with Shogun. Also, gotta point out that wheelchair has a shadow, but I don't see a shadow for him. I guess he's reflected in the ground though, so maybe I'm just being crazy.
残念だけど、あの彼は、西條匠は消すべきだよ。
Shogun remained motionless in response to her words.
どうして？
危険だから。
Rimi's voice was laden with grief and sorrow. Her eyes appeared slightly moist.
私が消そうか。
ダメだよ。
Rimi was unable to confirm whether or not he was actually moving his mouth to speak.
彼にはやってもらわなくちゃいけないことがあるんだ。
Rimi hung her head, then gently ran her fingers through her hair draped down before her.
例えば、あなたは夢に見たことを覚えていられる？そっか。私、 すぐ忘れちゃうんだ。
できる人とできない人がいる。
できる人はきっとロマンチストなんだね。
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know if it's that simple, though. I don't know why some people can remember them better than others.
すごく長い夢をよく見るよ。
Me too.
見ている間は何年にも感じられる。
Those are rarer, but they do happen to me.
私もそうだった。そうだった気がする。でも、それは幻。実際の時間としては、寝ているうちのほんの2、3秒程度のものなんだって、夢って。
That sounds kind of nice, though.
心の歌方なの。だから、早く目覚めて、でないと、いつか、あなたは、西条匠に殺されちゃう。
It's weird that she thinks that he'll kill him.
それでも構わないよ。夢から覚めるわけにはいかない。この夢は完結させなくちゃ。
What was that about? What is this about? What is happening here?
完結した夢の後には、何が残るの？
Will there be anything left? So weird. Okay, a little bit more. My shoulder was shaken sharply. It was extremely gentle. Then after just one shake, it stopped. Is it gonna be the transfer girl? It felt like someone was peering at my face. My consciousness was slowly returning to me. As it did, the pain in my body returned along with it. The smell in my nose, it was a smell so strong it made me want to vomit, the smell of blood. I felt a tingling around my upper lip. The taste of iron spread through my mouth. Slowly I opened my eyes. What the fetch? I was in the same back alley as before. I was lying face down on the asphalt. Right in front of me was a small reddish-brown puddle of liquid, likely seeping from from one of the dumpsters. Grimacing at the smell invading my nostril, I sat up. My whole body ached. My face was particularly hurt like hell. It was hot and tingly, and someone had taken lighter gasoline to it. What the fetch? Right beside me, a girl I recognized was kneeling down looking at me. She looked like she was about to cry. It was the transfer student, the girl who had transferred into my class. What was her name again? Ohara? Ohihara? Oshihara. Why was the transfer student here, I wondered. And then the transfer student held out something to me. It was my wallet. Why'd she have it? My head still foggy, I looked around. The 3 DQNs that attacked me earlier were now lying in a pool of blood. What the hell? It was like they'd all been one-shot by some OP mob. The faces the 3 were barely still intact. Holy crap, what did she do to them? Were they dead? None of them moved a single muscle. No, was this the new 7th gen, the new gen case? Who the hell would do something like this? Had I? The transfer student then stood up and beckoned to me. She was completely pale. She alternated between looking at me, who was still very confused, and the 3 collapsed people, tears welled in the corner of her eyes. Suddenly, she grabbed my hand and took off running with me in tow, staggering every once in a while. Alright. We are going to end here. Because that's insane. What? But... What? Like, was it her? Or did she, like, just find us there? But if she did, how did she know we were there? And if she didn't, did she see what happened? They're, like, dying. But could she really done that to them? Especially, like, unless she had a weapon. Maybe she's got a D-sword, but if she does, like... Wouldn't a sword cut them, not beat them to a pulp? Maybe she's got, like, a D-hammer. But still, that's crazy. What the fetch is happening? More questions! More questions! I'm excited though. Anyway, thank you so much for being here today. I think this is going to be a wonderful thing to explore next time. But yeah, dark, depressing, very crazy episode for this one. But yeah, I feel like we're like, it's like all the threads are being pulled together, and soon we're going to be able to see what the tapestry's going to be. Like, we'll be able to see the story. But right now it's all just different colors of thread, and they're just starting to get woven into each other. So we're starting to see a form, but it's still so distorted, and there's so many possible directions the colors can go that there's no clear answers yet. But I feel like we're starting to just like, we're making progress slowly towards like the formation of something real, and that's very exciting. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I certainly enjoyed making it, and yeah, I'm looking forward to doing more in the future. But for now, I think we'll have to take a break. Thank you to the patrons and members who support me so much, for being directly with your support. Like, it means a lot, and I'm going to use it to make the channel as good as I can. But to any of you who are watching this or listening right now, especially you leaving likes and comments, like, you're doing just as much, if not more, heavy lifting for the channel than anything else you could do. So thank you so much for that. It means the world to me. I hope you continue to enjoy the series and that we keep coming back for more. I gotta find more time in my life to do some of the editing I've been falling behind on. I'm starting to wonder if maybe in a future week I might need to do like a mega editing weekend where I might even put aside like a Yakuza episode for a day just so I can focus on editing, because the Baldur's Gate video like needs to come out. I just need to put the final touches on it, and it's still going to be a few hours for that to come to pass, so I just want to get that done. But yeah, I'll get to that when I get to it. I appreciate you being part of this journey. Hope you have a great start of your weekend, and until the next video you're watching me up and see me in next, I'll see you there.